in order to begin our activities, I may invite the Chairman, Assistant Professor Dr. Wam again on the stage, and the Repertoire, Mr. Majid Hamid, please.
The presenter or speaker, and who will be Assistant Professor Azhar Hassan Salomi. So please, now the stage is yours. And while she prepare and like to begin or start with her research, I'd like Mr. Majid to present something about Mrs. Azhar. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well, hello. Mrs. Azhar had obtained her BA and master's degrees from the Sanawiya University, starting her life career in 1996, and she would worked as a teacher in English language for about 10 years in the Teacher Training Institute in Baghdad. Now she has been working as an instructor of English language at the University of Karbala. Mrs. Azhar has participated in several workshops in Karbala and Iran, and also attended several conferences held in Karbala, Thailand, and Turkey. She has published several research works, mainly applying linguistic and pragmatic elements on literary text. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes,
Good morning, everybody. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Ruan, the head of the department, for her invitation, and I'm really happy today to be here among you for the second time in the same place. Thank you, Doctor. Yes. Today, I'm going to talk about something related to the discourse of the Holy Quran. The title of my presentation is Semantic Parallelism and Repetition in the Discourse of the Holy Quran. You know that the Book of Allah, the Holy Quran, witnesses prominently the presence of, or the manifestation of various alter rhetorical devices that Allah uses to convey His message to man through His Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his descendants. Of course, parallelism and repetitions are among many other variants that can be used to perform many tasks, let us say, and they have a vital part in communication because the speakers usually use specific strategies to convey the message to achieve communication, and through that they can achieve positive utilities in any discourse they occur, and the discourse of the Holy Quran is no exception. Let me first give you an idea about what do you mean by parallelism. Parallelism, in fact, refers to the pairings or combination of constituents on the three levels of language. They can occur as the structured level as well as semantic level. In fact, parallelism forms an equivalent relation and the structurally as well as semantically, and the type of the equivalences here, in fact, can be established on different dimensions: syntactic, semantic, and phonological. In my presentation, I focus on semantic parallelism specifically, and I left the others, I mean phonological and structure, for further research, because you know it is not easy to handle all of them in a simple paper. Okay, and I have chosen, in fact, in my presentation, the sample 2 surahs from the Holy Quran, specifically Surah the Beneficent, Ar-Rahman, and the great event, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, to investigate such 2 rhetorical devices. So in my paper, in fact, I try to answer 2 questions. First of all, do both surahs parallel in terms of the surviving branch of repetition and semantic parallelism, and why? The second question here is, what are the motives behind the occurrence of such 2 rhetorical devices? You know that repetition the noun repetition itself may carry 2 key senses. The first, it refers to the act of performing or doing something again, or it refers to the repeated use of an act or a word or a sentence or a pattern in a specific discourse. repetition itself can be used destructively as well as constructively. Of course, the destructive use of repetition is ignored here, as you know that for something to be redundant or destructive is far away from the discourse of the Holy Quran. So I focus on the positive or the fruitful usage of repetition here. The fruitful usage of repetition, in fact, embraces many utilities. For example, it can achieve cohesion, it can make a certain point or concept more memorable, it can set an emphasis on something, it can create persuasion, and so on. So today I'm going to handle the branch of repetition used specifically in these two surahs, as well as the pairings of the semantic parallelism specifically, and compare between the two. The motives behind their occurrence also is tackled here. Yes. Let me now, concerning the methodology here, I have mentioned that two surahs are examined here, scanned carefully, and visual and fab models are used to detect these sorts or categories of repetition and parallelism as well, and they are examined quantitatively as well as qualitatively to show them. Let me give you here an idea about the branch of repetition according to this model, visual model. The first one is known as initial final. Here, the repeated word, the same word is repeated in the initial position and as well as the final position of the same sentence. For example, when you say فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة. The second one is known as initial and final. Here, the same expression is repeated in the initial and final, but in two successive sentences. When you say فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. The third one is initial, and this is very important type of repetition that is highly used, in fact, in any discourse we have. Here, the same item is repeated just initially, at the beginning of sentence. For example, here, خلق is repeated. خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار. Medial. Here, you know that if you notice here, according to the model, the repetition is classified according to its occurrence, the position of its occurrence in the context. Here, when the same word is repeated in the medial position specifically. When I say here, سورة مريم اطلع الغيب أم اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا يوم نحشر المتقين إلى الرحمن وفدا. The same here word الرحمن is repeated in the medial position. Concerning final, which is known as epistrophe, here the word is repeated in the final position of two successive sentences. Not in the same sentence, but in two successive sentences. For example, here, ما الحاقة وما أدراك ما الحاقة. Final initial, anadiplosis here, when the word occurs, which occurs at the end of the sentence, will occur again at the beginning of the following sentence. For example, ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قواريرا. Then قوارير من فضة قدرها تقديرا. So we have here قوارير. Concerning the seventh type, which is an important, in fact, let's say, part of repetition here, is known as chiasmus. Chiasmus here refers to the juxtaposed patterns are exposed in the same sentence. For example, ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم. Total immediate repetition here, when the same word is repeated one after the other. وإذا بطشتم بطشتم جبارين. بطشتم بطشتم. So we have the same word is repeated. Also we have the total extended one. Here, when the same phrase is repeated, in fact, or scattered here and there through the whole, let's say, surah. For example, here, السماوات والأرض, ملك السماوات والأرض is repeated here and there in the whole text, let us say. له ملك السماوات والأرض لله ملك السماوات والأرض وما فيهن. Okay. Now, concerning the groupings of semantic parallelism, specifically, we have two types of semantic parallelism. The first one is synonymy, when we have the two words which have, let's say, similar meaning are used. And the second is antithesis. Within antithesis, we refer to the two opposite words. Two opposite words. So here, for example, we have the beneficent, the merciful, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. And when we have يوم تبيض وجوه وتسود وجوه, also we have تبيض وتسود. So two opposite terms. In fact, if we tackle the significance or the impact of repetition in any discourse it occurs, we will see that, in fact, mainly we have three, let's say, motives behind the occurrence of repetition. If we investigate repetition in different discourse, we will see that the main motives are emphasis, to put emphasis, to make a point more memorable, and let's say, for example, glorifications. Okay, when you want to eliminate, when you want to glorify, something, I mean a person or a deed, you will use repetition. But within the discourse of the Holy Quran, I have found different motives. Of course, these motives are mentioned by different linguists. I depend in my paper on different sources. Some of them are Arabic, others are Persian, others are, let's say, English one. So I have found that these motives are guiding, sympathy, warning, emphasis, glorification, to give hope, and reminding in important ideas. We will see now, concerning within these two surahs, how these branches of repetition as well as semantic parallelism is distributed. Within the first surah, I mean Surah Al-Rahman, I found that just three types of repetition are used, which are initial, anaphora, خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار, أو فيهما عينان نضاختان فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فيهما here. The second is, which is very important here, and this in fact makes me choose this surah specifically, is the occurrence of the verse فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which is repeated for 31 times in the surah here. Another example is وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذِي الجَّلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ, and another تَبَارَكَ اسْمُ رَبِّكَ ذِي الجَّلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. Now, let me here stop to clarify the motives behind this repetition of فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Of course, different interpretation here are said for this extensive use of فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, and one of them is a Tabatabai interpretation. That is in his book Tafsir al-Mizan. He said that the interrogative form of this verse and the extensive use of this verse specifically in Surah Al-Rahman is due to the fact that here Allah, it reflects how Allah reproached gently both man and jinn for the denial of his blessings. So in fact, he wants to emphasize something. He wants to glorify Allah's blessing to us as a human beings. Okay? At the same time, Al-Qummi, on the other hand, remarks that the pronoun you in this verse, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, it's true that it is explicitly refers to man and jinn, but implicitly it denotes or refers to caliphs. So here, the blessings, in fact, refers to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the character of Imam Ali. Now, so we can say the total motive behind this manifestation of repetition here is to show how Allah is blessed with people, okay, to show the extent of Allah's blessings to people. Now, another type is final epistrophe, here represented by وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَضَعَ الْمِيزَانَ أَلَّا تَطْغُوا فِي الْمِيزَانِ, the word al-mizan. Concerning synonymy here, which reflects what? Semantic parallelism, we have فيهن خيرات حسان, خيرات وحسان. رب المشرق وانtithesis رب المشرقين ورب المغربين, two opposite things. والسماء رفعها ووضع, رفعها ووضع, also two opposite things. Here I give you a table here in which I show how the brands are scanned qualitatively as well as quantitatively, and you see that within totals, for example, here they are represented by فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ is repeated for 39 times, so it constitutes 86.62% from the whole total of repetition used here. And within antithesis, we have also antithesis is more frequent in use than synonyms in this surah. Now, the second surah, which is the great event, here we have, in fact, 6 brands of repetition are used here. So repetition here is more than the first one. And anaphora has the more frequent type here, is the more frequent type here, and represented here, for example, within the first type, initial, final, وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين. And we have initial anaphora شاربون عليه من الحميم فشاربون شرب الهيم. الميديال إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقعتها كاذبة ووقعت وقعتها. And we have final وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين. أيضا we have total immediate repetition إلا قيل سلاما سلاما. Also it's repeated. إنا إنشأناهن إنشاء. So we have إنشأناهن and إنشاء. Total extended repetition here ثلة من الأولين is scattered here and there in the whole surah. Within synonymy also we have فنزل من حميم وتصلية جحيم. حميم وجحيم. Also we have within antithesis خافضة رافعة or الأولين والآخرين. So it's clear here that anaphora is more frequent, in fact, than used. It is more common, more popular than the others. And this, of course, has a reason. Why anaphora, which refers to the repetition of a word initially, is more frequent in use than the other. Of course, you see that anaphora, in fact, enriches sound harmony of speech, and it adds to the rhythmic, in fact, combination of sounds developed by or motivated by intonation and sound distinctiveness. So in being so, when you repeat a word or a pattern initially, this wants to, the speaker wants to, in fact, to make a certain word more memorable to the addressee, to the listener, So he wants to make such concepts is more memorable. Within antithesis, again, antithesis here is more frequent than synonyms 1. Of course, within synonymy, we have this close connection. If you see, we have this connection between among the 2 pairs of antithesis here used here, and both of them carry the denotation to the final and last, الأولين والآخرين, who refers to those First Nations who believed in the Prophet Muhammad and those who follow the Prophet Muhammad. The last nation who follow Muhammad. And here, in fact, there is also an indication to Imam Ali here. Here, you see that he also wants to show how anaphora repetition, for example, and even antithesis shows the Lord exaltation of Imam Ali. And my interpretation, in fact, is further conferred by Imam al-Sadiq sayings, that is, Al-Shaykh al-Saduq mentioned in his book, ثواب الأعمال وعقاب الأعمال. He mentioned that Imam al-Sadiq, peace be upon him, stated that this surah, Al-Waqi'ah, is descended in the honor of Imam Ali and prizing his dignity. And he said that من قرأ في كل ليلة جمعة الواقعة أحبه الله وأحبه إلى الناس أجمعين. وكان من رفقاء أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. وهذه السورة لأمير المؤمنين خاصة لا يشركها فيها أحد. So this confirms my interpretation that, in fact, the use of parallelism here as well as repetition refers to the dignity, refers to the honor of Imam Ali, peace be upon him, and his descendant. Now, let's jump to conclusion. We can say that the beneficent and the grave event surahs share the presence of genre of disparate repetition and semantic parallelism, but with altered, means they are not parallel then within the distribution, within the scattering of repeated terms. And such lack of correspondence may be due to the fact that each surah is descendant in diverse setting or condition. The second one is that the overuse of total set of repetition in Surah 55 reflects how the Almighty underlines the incredulity of some unbelievers and has a vital role in reminding the human beings of their repudiation, the Bestwitz blessings. Third one, the frequent availability of anaphora and antithesis thoughts in Surah 56 echoes how God glorifies the majesty of Imam Ali and exposes the distinction between his followers and those who challenge him. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Now then, it is the time for your questions, for inquiries, for comments.
Thanks a lot.
Please do.
Thank you. Thank you.